Hi everyone, this is a little bit of a different video for me. I never made a reaction video like this, but ESPN put out their power rankings 7 days ago, and I figure this is a new style of content that I want to at least try and pump out. I want to see what you guys think of it. If you like it, feel free to like down below, subscribe. I'm just going to look at their power rankings starting at the bottom, team number 32, and see how much I disagree. I am expecting to disagree with a lot of it, because I am someone that tends to have a little bit of off-the-grain opinions. At least I think of myself that way. And I feel like a lot of lists that come out in terms of power rankings are way too reactionary, and they're not as willing to say a team improved because they're afraid to. And I'm not just calling out ESPN with this. I'm just saying in general, it feels like a lot of people, a lot of writers for these lists feel like they have to see games get played before they rank last year's worst team as maybe a mediocre team, right? So that's how I feel. I am going into this expecting to disagree. If you enjoy, feel free to leave a like. Subscribing would really help the channel. I also have a podcast which will be linked down below. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's just get into it. I'm going to try and find the start of the list. I don't want to see... I'm trying to look away from the rankings because I haven't looked at anything yet. Carolina Panthers are the 32nd team. Exactly what I was talking about earlier, right? It feels like writers are afraid to rank the Panthers any better than the worst in the league, because the fact is they haven't proven anything yet. They haven't played yet. But you look at their new additions, I'm not going to say that this team is going to be very good. I'm not even going to say that they're going to be a good team. But I'd be surprised if they're the worst in the league again. I really, really would. Additions like Leggett, like Deontay Johnson, and then, they add some guys on the offensive line, which helps. They lost Brian Burns, and I think that defense will really be bad, but the offense should be a lot better. Even the guys they drafted, Jonathan Brooks, right? Jatavion Sanders, I think that offense should be good. And while the defense is going to be really bad, I look at it and I'm expecting this team to still be bad, but not the worst anymore. Just because there's teams that are worse. And I don't think the Broncos are a team I would consider worse. I'm a little bit confused as to how they might have fell since free agency, because apparently their pre-draft ranking was 27th. That really doesn't make sense to me personally. I feel like the Broncos, after adding a quarterback and no longer having Jarrett Stidham as their QB1, they should definitely be rising. Maybe they were saying earlier that they could get a quarterback better than Bo Nix, but at least I felt like Bo Nix becoming a Denver Bronco was inevitable. Maybe I had a little bit too much confidence in that compared to other people. But yeah, no, 31st, I mean, it depends on how you feel about Sean Payton. I think that's a lot of how you judge the Denver Broncos. Do you think Sean Payton and the coaching staff can do a good job with their now younger team? I don't expect the team to be great, but I don't think they're the second worst team in the league. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. The Patriots, now this is the team I think should be the worst. Okay? Most improved quarterback. Drake May is a guy that some people really like. I like his upside. But in terms of a day one guy, it's gonna be Brissett week one. And it should be Brissett the entire year, is what I'm expecting. Drake May is just not a quarterback I think will be very good year one. Down the line, he has ability. He probably will come in later on during the season just because he was the third overall pick. But no, I really don't agree with the Patriots not being on the bottom. I think that they are the worst team in the league. The coaching staff, I'm not a fan of. They really don't have much on offense. them drafting a quarterback that, like I said, I don't think will be very good year one, and then drafting another quarterback later on. I'm glad that they reminded me right here. Yeah, I was not a fan of their draft, really. I like Javon Baker. I love that pick, but I hated the second rounder, Jalen Polk. I feel like he's a very one-dimensional receiver. I think that offense is going to be really, really bad, and the defense should really drop off with Bill Belichick gone. So, yeah, the Patriots, I think, are going to be really bad. The Cardinals are this low, really? Yeah, the Cardinals being one spot away from the Patriots, I just can't agree with that at all. Kyler Murray, if he could stay healthy, I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, and he doesn't get credit for it because he's always injured. I liked their draft. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to completely ball out year one. I do. I think he's going to kill it. They added more pieces on that defense. They have a good thing going. The coaching staff has done a good, very good job. Yeah, I don't agree with them being this low. I think the Cardinals are going to be one of the biggest glow-ups in the NFL this upcoming season. I really do. Like, this is a team I expect to be around the middle of the pack. And I get it, not everyone's going to have them, like, in their top 20 or in their top 23. But 29 I still feel like is really, really low. Anyway, let's move on to the 28 New York Giants. This is another team where I'm a little bit more optimistic about them. I know that Daniel Jones is still their quarterback, but I really like what they did on the offensive line in terms of adding John Runyon, adding Illuminor. The only question for me is how will Evan Neal look at guard, assuming that they put him there. Illuminor is a tackle that I really like. I think he's far better than Evan Neal as a tackle. And, of course, Brian Burns, that addition is huge, right? So, I'm really, really not a fan of this ranking. I think the Giants should be a lot higher. Again, I get it. Daniel Jones isn't very good, but we've seen Brian Dable succeed with him taking snaps at quarterback in the past, so I just don't agree with the Giants being this low at all. The Commanders, yeah, this is about where the Commanders should be ranked. I would rank them lower because the teams I mentioned earlier I'm higher on. But yeah, this is about where I would rank them. Their draft was very weak compared to my expectations. I did like their free agency in the sense that they were getting like the role players, the stabilizing players at the spots that you don't really need to bring in as like key positions. So like Frankie Louvu, I really like. They brought in a center that I think is very capable. And then I thought that they were going to knock out the important key positions in the draft. But they didn't. They got Jaden Daniels, but with that offensive line, especially, the left tackle, I mean, they got a third-round rookie I wasn't a big fan of. He's not going to look good. Jaden Daniels needs a really good offensive line. They don't have it. I just think they're going to have the same problem they had with Howell in the sense that Howell isn't great in the pocket and the offensive line doesn't cover that weakness. The Titans brought in a lot of veterans, but all the veterans are on the decline, except L'Jarius Sneed, who was a very, very good corner for them. I do like the change that they made to the secondary. I mean, I'm going to highlight it right now. Those are two big additions for them, assuming that Chidobe Awuzie can stay healthy and, recover from his injury. But besides that, I really didn't like their offseason at all. They've devoted so many assets to their receiving room. And it's one that I just cannot support. It's a receiving room that I downright hate, in all honesty. I like Boyd. I like that addition. But Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Treylon Burks, I'm not a fan of any of those guys. And I'm supposed to believe that they can execute that offense with Brian Callahan? Brian Callahan's scheme the route concepts he designed aren't exactly wide receiver friendly. Okay, they're really not. And it works really well when you have a Jamar Chase, when you have a, T. Higgins. But the Titans don't. And the Titans definitely don't have a Joe Burrow. I also hated the Pollard move. The Titans are a team I'm lower on. And, this is where the teams I was higher on really start to climb up because of teams like the Titans. The Raiders, I like their defense, but the offense with Getsy calling the shots and then Gardner Minshew, I feel like it's going to be really similar to the 2022 Broncos in the sense that their defense is going to be great. It's going to be really, really good. But the offense is just pitiful and it doesn't matter at all. I think that's what it's going to be. Because like I said, Gardner Minshew and Luke Getsy. Come on now. They need Brock Purdy. They need Brock. I almost said Brock Purdy. Brock Bowers to carry. They need him to carry. At least to, if they can get 24 points a game, 21 points, I feel comfortable in their ability to win because I do really like their defense. But the offense, I think, is going to be so bad this year, man. I really do. I think it's going to be really, really bad. The Saints, yeah, this is about where I would rank them. Maybe I bumped the Raiders ahead of them, but this is fair. This is fair. I mean, Derek Carr does a bad job, but there are pieces on that offense. The offensive line is really bad. The Saints' defense, though, has a lot of pieces. And they added some. I mean, it says right there, second-round pick, Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's a nice one. And overall, that entire secondary, or entire cornerback room, and secondary as a whole, too, they have Tyrann Mathieu. It's a good one. It's a good one. And then they have the ageless wonders of Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis. So I'm just going to expect another good season from them until they finally show me that they're starting to decline because they've been so great for so long now. The Saints, they belong around where they are. The Vikings, I would probably rank them higher just because last year, what they were doing with Joshua Dobbs and with their quarterback issues, they were still looking good, and part of that was their defense. Now they have a legitimate quarterback that they're going to have an entire offseason program with, a young guy. I don't even like J.J. McCarthy that much, but I love the scheme fit. Justin Jefferson, maybe he stays healthy. This is a team I'm a little bit higher on. I think they're at least going to be average. 23, I think, is a little bit too low for them. Even worst case scenario, I think it's too low. They should be very, very capable this year. I get it, they lost Kirk Cousins, but Kevin O'Connell's a really good coach, man. It's just that simple. He's a very good coach. Chargers ahead of the Vikings. That's a crazy one to me. I think the Chargers defense is really going to suck. I love what Harbaugh does. And, he's someone who could get the best out of his players. And maybe Minter does a great job. And as a result, maybe that defense will be better than I'm giving them credit for. But I don't know. They seem a little bit too bare bones in terms of talent. They seem like the type of team that'll every week give their opponent a tough game. But they'll very rarely end up on top. That's how I feel about them. They lost so many players. They're in such a bad cap spot they couldn't really make up for the losses that they had. I struggle to be this optimistic about the Chargers, but I wouldn't rank them too much lower, I guess. For me, it's just the Vikings. I would definitely rank ahead of them. The Seahawks. The Seahawks are a tough one for me. They're a really, really tough team for me because I look at it and I just say, they got some guys. I really like Geno. Their wide receiver trio, I love. I do. I think JSN still has a lot of ability. And I like their running back room, Charbonnet and Walker. But then you look and, new head coach, new entire coaching staff. The offensive line, interior offensive line still isn't very good. You look on the interior defensive line, okay, they brought in Byron Murphy. That's a rookie. I still feel like it's a little bit of a question, And then the secondary, I don't really like. They lost both their safeties. I mean, it's tough for me to be overly optimistic, I feel like this is about where I would rank them, probably. Once again, ahead of the Vikings, though. I find that to be a little bit crazy. The Falcons at 20. Yeah. Could they have done better in the draft? Absolutely. But I really like the pieces they have. And for me, this is a lot of projection because we haven't seen much out of Pitts yet. And we haven't seen much out of London yet. And we haven't seen too much out of Bijan Robinson yet. But I really do think in a new offensive scheme with Zach Robinson, who I expect to start getting head coaching jobs, okay? I expect him to start getting head coaching interviews really soon, Zach Robinson. I think he could really put these pieces together and make a really dynamic offense. And yes, that defense would be better if they got a Dallas Turner in the draft. I'm 100% agreeing. But that defense was still pretty good last year. Okay, yeah, they're still going to struggle to get to the quarterback, but if it's as good as last year, with the offense definitely being much better, they're going to be a much better football team. 20 is too low. 20 is too low in my mind. That's how I feel. I think 20 is too low. Kirk Cousins is going to do a much better job than Desmond Ridder did. I think 20 is too low. And then the Buccaneers at 19. I get it. I would probably rank them about here. Last year it felt a lot like a fluke. No more Dave Canals. Now will Baker fall off? I don't know. They still feel like a flawed team. I get it. They added Graham Barden in the draft, but I still don't like their offensive line. I'm just not a fan, really. Baker did a good job last year, but I feel like a lot of it was Canals. And with Canals gone, we're going to see a lot for Baker. I think it's a big question mark year for Baker. Defensively, they got guys. They got some talent. I'm just not a big fan. I don't think they answered the questions that they need to answer this year. In terms of the offseason, I don't think they did a great job answering those questions. I think the run game is still going to be really bad. Again, we'll see. They're still going to be good. Or around average, I guess. But I agree with this ranking. I think there's teams that I would put ahead of them that would result in them probably being around 21, 20. But I agree, if you're lower on the Falcons, if you're lower on the Vikings, sure. The Colts at 18. This is very similar to the Vikings, where last year they were playing without their starting quarterback. Yet they still almost made the playoffs. I am in a position where, just like with the Vikings, I want to put this team higher because they nearly made the playoffs. They nearly beat out the Texans last year. And they only added stuff. Okay, and they added a lot more than the Vikings did. The addition of Latu is a big one, man. That's a big one. And Anthony Richardson being healthy, that could be a game changer for them. Richardson seemed really, really good when he was healthy last year. If he's able to stay healthy the entire year, oh boy, they're going to do some damage, man. They're going to do some damage. That offensive line is really good. 18, I think, is a little bit too low. Wow, I'm saying a lot of teams are too low, aren't I? The New York Jets at 17. That is way too low. I really think last year I was lower on the Jets. Last year I was lower on the Jets than other people. Not because I knew Rodgers was going to get hurt, but I was lower on the Jets than other people. Their offensive line is much more complete this year. Much more complete. And I love the first-round pick, too. Let me just say that. I really like the addition of Malachi Corley. I really like the addition of Mike Williams. I still don't like Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator. But if this team can stay healthy, this is like a top 5 team in the league for me, man. Now, maybe I need to write down 5 teams and then I might retract that statement. But they're in that like top 5 teams in the league area for me. So them being 17, again, to me, this is what I was talking about at the start of the video. It feels like people are afraid to rank them too far ahead of where they finished last year, even though they are going to have the most drastic change in quarterback from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers this year. It should be a lot better QB play. And now Aaron Rodgers will stay healthy because the offensive line is so much better. I just don't agree with them being 17 at all. Man, Am I too optimistic? Because again, I want to say this team should be higher, at least a little bit. I get it, they're young. And Caleb, I think, is a little bit more questionable than people think he is. But that defense was damn good last year. Damn good last year. And with him healthy, with Keenan Allen there, they should be doing some damage, man. They're a really, really well-rounded team with a good offensive line. They got weapons in the receiver room. I still don't love their running backs, but they don't need great running backs. The offensive line is good enough. And then that defense, I think, is going to be incredible. Incredible. So, for me, they're like a top 14 team. I really do feel that way, but yeah. I mean, top 14 team, and that's including raising the Jets up. I do think the Bears are definitely better than the Vikings. I definitely think the Bears and Colts is close. I would probably rank the Bears ahead of them. But yeah, no. This is a team I think should be a little bit higher in Chicago. The Steelers at 15, I definitely get it. I would put the Bears ahead of them. The offensive line should be really good. The quarterback play I don't love. I really don't love the quarterback play. But I really think it's going to be a run-heavy football team. I think they're going to play really old-school football, ball possession, run, let the clock run, and then when they go on defense, they're going to hold you to below 17, and they're going to win games in low-scoring affairs. Okay, I think that's how this team is going to work, but I don't know if they have quite the secondary to do that consistently. 15, I feel like, is a very good spot for them. The Rams at 14. Now, I've been saying so many teams should be up. I've been saying so many teams should be getting raised. But now it's really tough because I want to say the Rams should be higher, but I've said so many other teams should be higher. Like, yeah, I think the Rams are better than the other teams I said should be higher. Definitely. 100%. The Rams should absolutely be. I need to see who's ahead of them. For me, that's... Yeah. Jaguars ahead of the Rams, that is an insane take to me. That is insane to me, right? The Rams should absolutely be higher than the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's how I'm going to have to do it. The Bears should be higher than the Jaguars. Maybe the Jaguars are better than the Vikings. Maybe. No, I'll give the Vikings the edge over them, too. I don't really like Jacksonville. I really don't. I think that defense is weak. They brought in a new defensive coordinator that I'm not like a huge fan of. I'm not really against him, but the offense, I think, is really flawed. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is all that. I really don't. I think he makes some great plays, but he also has some stupid turnovers. The defensive line in Jacksonville I like, but they need more than that, okay? The secondary isn't great. The Rams I definitely put ahead of them. The Bears I definitely put ahead of them. And the Vikings I would probably put ahead of them too. The Rams, I mean, that offense is going to be incredible. Incredible. Stafford, Kupp, we don't really know what Kupp is at this point, but even if he is a non-factor, let's say, just for the sake of the argument, Kupp is a non-factor. Puka Nacua, he's phenomenal. He's electrifying. Come on, that's not a debate. He's amazing. He's one of the best receivers in the sport already. The offensive line, I mean, they might have the best interior offensive line in the entire NFL. Steve Avila, Jonah Jackson, and Kevin Dotson. Come on, that's a great offensive line. And then on defense now, you got Jared Verse, who I think is going to be an absolute stud. I think he was worth a top 5 pick. I really do think he was that good of an edge rusher. I'm a big Jared Verse fan. Kobe Turner was great. Great. Byron Young is a really good complimentary edge. I really like that defense. I really do, especially on the line of scrimmage. The secondary, they could improve. I'm in agreement. They lost their defensive coordinator. Okay. The Rams' defense, though, I think it should be pretty good, especially on the line of scrimmage. And that offense, I think, is going to be one of the best in the NFL. So they're definitely a better team than Jacksonville. And they're probably a better team than the Browns, who have too much of a quarterback issue to be ranked 12th. Let's be honest here. It's no longer, is Deshaun Watson going to bounce back? It's more of a conversation of whether or not Deshaun Watson will look like a competent NFL quarterback. That is what the discussion is at this point. We know that Deshaun Watson isn't going to become the Deshaun Watson that we saw in Houston. I'm sorry, those days are over. Deshaun Watson, it's to a point where Browns fans should just be praying that he isn't an absolute bum. Okay? Like, that's what they should be hoping for, because you have to be delusional to still have any optimism in terms of Deshaun Watson becoming what he used to be. Sorry, but that's just what it is. And now with Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator, I really don't like that. I really don't. So yeah, Cleveland, they have a really well-rounded roster, but I don't like the offensive coordinator, and I don't like the quarterback. And the receiver core, it's good. You know, the offensive line is good. Nick Chubb, we don't really know, but even if he's not that good, Jerome Ford's fine. The defense, we know how good it was last year, but does that repeat? I don't really know. I feel like you could get kind of figured out this year. Like, they're a good team, but they should not be ahead of a team like the Rams, okay? Or even the Bears I'd rank ahead of Cleveland. The Dallas Cowboys, really? We're still doing this. We're still doing, with Mike Zimmer there? We're still ranking the Dallas Cowboys in the top 12? I don't agree with that either. So, okay, now I feel a lot better about being higher on teams earlier, because they're just ranking a lot of, like, not great teams high. The Packers I get. I'd probably still, the Bears and Packers are really close. I'd probably still rank the Bears ahead of them. I'd probably rank the Rams ahead of them. But no, the Cowboys, they're a team with no Dan Quinn. That defense should be worse, like, without a doubt. And the offensive line should be good. Sure. Dak Prescott's good. But that receiver core, CeeDee Lamb and then who, right? And, yeah, I just don't. And most improved at linebacker. I mean, I guess they didn't really improve anywhere, so I guess it's easy to improve at linebacker if you're not improving anywhere else. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to do what they always do, right? They're going to win 12 games and then lose in the first week of playoffs. Like, why would you rank the Cowboys ahead of the Rams at that point, though? Maybe the Cowboys have a better regular season, but the Rams can, like, actually go on and, like, win a Super Bowl. The Cowboys can't. So for me, that's kind of just, how could you rank the Cowboys there? I don't know. I don't agree with that at all. And then the Packers, really well-coached team, and that's what it is. Like, that's their MVP. LaFleur is their MVP. Jordan Love is obviously a great quarterback. You know, I think that the new defensive coordinator should do a good job. I really like the new identity they seem to be trying to establish. The draft, adding a guy like Javon Bullard, I love. I'm a big Javon Bullard guy. They drafted a linebacker. That's cool. That should help. The offensive line, I think, could use a little bit more work, but it seems like LaFleur does a really good job designing plays around the offensive line, not being great and, you know, getting the ball out quick and that stuff. So I get why the Packers are here. I would probably rank the Bears ahead of them. I would definitely rank the Rams ahead of them, though. The Cincinnati Bengals, I get this too. I feel like I like the youth movement that's going on in Cincinnati. I do. New offensive coordinator, though. That is very important. Their draft wasn't one that moved me much. Geno Stone, though, I honestly forgot about that, so I'm glad that they're mentioning it. Geno Stone was a very good player, so adding him, that could help. I think their defense is going to be good. Like, Lou Anarumo does a really good job with that defense. Offensively, I think it'll be good. It's just a question of whether or not Joe Burrow stays healthy, right? Like, the Bengals feel like a very safe top 10 team. Okay, it's just a question of how high are you on the other teams. I'm higher on the Rams, and yeah, the Bengals I'll put ahead of the Bears just because the Bears have a top 10, the Bears have a rookie quarterback. A rookie quarterback, I don't even like, I'm not in love with him. Once again, I really like his upside, but I don't like, you know, I don't see him as like this day one guy. I don't see him as like this day one stud. I'm sorry. So yeah, Bengals I'll rank ahead of the Bears. I won't rank them ahead of the Rams though. The Bills are still here. The most improved youth, but that's also the problem with them here, man. I liked another team that their youth movement, they did a good job. You know, they did a good job with the youth movement. But man, I'm really struggling to get too optimistic here because they're supposed to be a competitor right now. Right now. And, or at least ranking them at 8 makes them seem like a competitor right now. And when your team is that young, and I know Sean McDermott does a good job coaching up the defense. Okay, cool. I don't really like Keon Coleman as a wide receiver 1. I feel like the offense should really struggle this year. Josh Allen's great, but once again, I see a top 8 team. Again, ahead of the Jets. Ahead of the Jets, really? Like, the Jets can go on and win a Super Bowl this year. The Bills can definitely not do that. Definitely not. I don't understand how you can reasonably put the Bills ahead of the Jets. I honestly don't understand that. Not this current Bills team. I'm sorry. They're too young. There's too many questions. They made a lot of changes this year. Meanwhile, the Jets, they have established veteran after established veteran after established veteran. The coaching staff, I know they get hate, but they do a really good job with that defense. That defense is going to be one of the best in the league. Again, I feel like the Jets' worst case scenario on defense is honestly better than the Bills' best case scenario on defense. Like, and I truly feel that way. Like, that's not hyperbole. So, yeah, Bills I think are too high, without a doubt. And then Miami, they're a flawed football team. They're a team that will dominate in the regular season, especially with their schedule. Like, they will dominate. But when they play a better opponent, we saw what happened last year. They won one game against a team over 500 last year. They're very consistent. They're good at beating the lower-end teams. But when they need to be a well-rounded football team that establishes the run game and they need to play a full 4 quarters, they can't do it because they aren't a well-rounded football team. They are really good at passing the ball, but they can't run the ball at all. Like, they can run I know the run statistics seem a lot better than they are, but look what happens when they play against a really good team. They can't run the ball. They can't because the interior offensive line sucks. It sucks. And instead of changing it and making the changes that needed to be made, they instead chose to draft 2 more wide receivers and add OBJ in free agency because that's our problem. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. We need a 3rd fast running back. No, your interior offensive line is awful. Yeah, Miami is too weak on the interior offensive line. They aren't this extremely high caliber defense. They have a new defensive coordinator who hasn't been a defensive coordinator before. Yeah, I can't rank them ahead of the Jets in good conscience. I absolutely cannot, and I'd rank the Rams ahead of them too. The Texans at 6. Okay, this is when we get to a team where I get it. I would, again, rank the Jets ahead of them. Right now, that's my benchmark. Because seeing the Jets at 17, like, that really pissed me off. That really pissed me off. I get it here, right? I definitely do. I mean, they added guys. They added Mixon. They added Stephon Diggs. They didn't mention right here, but I want to mention it myself because I think it's going to be a big, big change to that defense. Azeez Al-Shaair. Reuniting with D'Amico Ryans, I think that should be really good for them. I think he's going to be the most underrated, or one of the most underrated free agency additions of the entire offseason. Yeah, the Texans, I'm high on them too. I would rank them about here. This makes sense. Like, they're a good football team. Philadelphia Eagles, I actually really like this because they upgraded at both coordinator spots. They got established guys. That's all they need because they're really talented. They just need to get established guys. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, great. Good job. Double thumbs up from me. And then in the secondary, you brought in that youth movement. I mean, it says it right here. Bringing in Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Love it. Those are the 2 best corners. Taron Arnold I really like too, but those are 2 great rookie corners that should be really good from day one for them. And if they're not, well, right here, you got those 2. Vic Fangio, we know what he likes to do, and I think the Eagles have the personnel to do it. And then Kellen Moore, I think he can get that offense back, up and running. I do think the offensive line is a little bit worse. Losing Jason Kelsey, a generational center, will do that. The Eagles are a good team. Once again, I get why they're here. I would rank the Jets ahead of them, but I probably wouldn't rank the Rams ahead of them. So, there you go. Progress is being made. And Detroit. So, yeah, I mean, it says it right here. This is the most important thing for them. The secondary. It improved, without a doubt. And I'm not a big Aeneas Rakestraw guy, but I love Terry and Arnold. I really liked his film. Carlton Davis, great signing there, too. The secondary just needs to be good. Like, it doesn't need to be great. It just needs to be good. Their defensive line, especially now after adding DJ Reader, it will crush people. It will crush people. I mean, they're going to be great at getting to the quarterback. They're going to be great at defending the run the same way they were last year. They were really good at defending the run last year. I think that Detroit defensively should look a lot better, and that offense should still be really good. Thank God they kept Ben Johnson. If they didn't have Ben Johnson, it would be very difficult to keep them ranked 4th. Yeah, Detroit's a team I really like this year. I completely get why they're here. And Jets versus Detroit, I feel like that's really close. Really close. Baltimore at 3, I can't agree. Baltimore got a lot worse this year. They lost several starters on the offensive line. They lost the best defensive coordinator I've seen in a really long time in Mike Macdonald. I don't know if that defense will be that good this year. And the Ravens' defense is always good, so I'm expecting it to still be fine. But it definitely won't be like this best defense in the league like it was last year. Okay? Without Mike Macdonald, I mean, that defense is going to fall off. They've lost some starters. I struggle to rank them here. I really do. I would rank the Jets ahead of them. I would absolutely rank Detroit ahead of them. Yeah, the Ravens, I still think they're good. Like, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, how can you not think that's good? But I really struggle to say it's like a top 3 team. No way. I can't even say they're top 5. I can't say they're ahead of the Jets. I can't say they're ahead of Detroit. I can't. I think the Rams and them are really close. The Rams are a team I really like, clearly. Yeah, and then the 49ers at 2. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl last year, right? They're flawed. The offensive line isn't overly well-rounded. They brought in a new defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen. I'm excited to see how he does. I really have no idea. He's a question mark to me. I am really excited to see it, though, because the defensive coordinator last year wasn't doing a great job. The defensive line had a lot of talent, but it wasn't playing up to that talent. Maybe that changes this year. Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I am. 49ers, of course, Kyle Shanahan. We know what he does. That offensive line isn't great, but besides that, the offense as a whole is fantastic. They added some guys that should make it even more dynamic. I'm excited to see, they got some rookies that I think have a lot of promise. Ricky Pearsall. I forgot the name for a second. Ricky Pearsall as wide receiver 3. I think he'll be fantastic. Just super excited to see it. Super excited for them. 49ers, they should be a really good team. I completely understand why they're second. And then the Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. Come on. And they got better. Like, they lost Snead, which sucks, but they got guys. They still have Trent McDuffie, who is one of the best corners in football anyway. So, yeah, they still have... Man, they're so good. They're just so good. They still have Steve Spagnuolo, so the defense should still be really good. And then they upgraded that receiver room, right? And that was their problem last year. So, yeah, they're going to be dynamic, man. They're still the Chiefs. They still have Mahomes. It's hard to not rank them at 1. Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed. That's all for this video. It's a different style video for me. If you want more content like this, subscribe, leave a like. That would be greatly appreciated. And feel free to look in my bio. I have a podcast. I post on Twitter a lot, or X, whatever you want to call it. Instagram I have. I have a lot of different pages. So feel free to check those out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all again next time.